I'm back, you're here, so let's look at some weird stuff together. This is Archaeologists unearthed an Ice Age settlement that may rewrite North American history. Let's go.
Beginning with the arrival of the first people in the Americas around 15,000 BC, the United States has a long and rich history. So much so that to this day, we continue to discover the most astounding things in this country. Things that are so incredible, some of them could rewrite history. From mysterious vortexes to bizarre animal fossils, here are 20 shocking things recently discovered in the United States. Number 20. Native American vortexes. Have you heard about vortexes? In some cultures, vortexes or vortices are spots on our planet where unidentified energy is said to enter or project out from the land. These so-called energies allegedly have different effects. Today, these alleged vortices are considered one of the most mysterious points in the United States. Long before the Europeans reached North America, many native tribes erected their sacred landscapes. Today, most of these points are recognized as vortex sites. These vortex sites, such as those around Sedona, Arizona, are thought to be special spots on Earth where energy either enters into or projects out from the land. According to many, Sedona's vortexes can aid in healing the body and mind from its past. It's also a location that specializes in cleaning away old, deep scars and helping the mind to forget. Sedona is also a place known for its abundance of master healers, and often, this place is visited solely for the purpose of meditation, healing, and spirit seeking.
I think our entire country needs that. We all need to just load up on some charter buses and go here.
Although claims about energy vortices are debated to this day, many continue visiting Sedona, hoping it will change their lives. If any of you guys have visited this vortex before, I want you to share your experience in the comments down below.
Seriously, if you've been there, let me know. I mean, it's worth a shot. What else could, you know what I mean? What could go wrong?
Before we go on, like this video, smash the subscribe button, and click the notification bell right now. Number 19. Mastodon Tooth. In 2021, a boy hiking with his family through the Dinosaur Hill Nature Preserve discovered something he would never forget. Julian Gagnon was having a fun trip with the rest of his family on Labor Day when he stumbled upon an oddly shaped rock, or at least, that's what he initially thought it was. It turned out, however, that he discovered a 12,000-year-old fossil, particularly the molar of a juvenile mastodon. Upon consulting with the University of Michigan Museum of Paleontology, it was confirmed that Julian had discovered a rare fossil that hadn't been touched in over 12,000 years. Now, what exactly are mastodons? Mastodons are giant creatures that are often mistaken for woolly mammoths. These creatures roamed North America until about 10,000 years ago and resembled modern elephants, but were adapted to the cold environments of the Ice Age. Mastodon remains, while not unheard of in Michigan, are still considered rare, and paleontologists are always delighted to examine new mastodon fossils.
Now look at all these parents that tell their kids, leave that alone. Don't mess with that. Stop touching that. What are you doing? When we're out there just being curious and exploring, look what he did.
And while Julian didn't discover gold or anything with monetary value, Julian and his family still recognized the importance of this discovery. Julian donated the tooth to the museum, and this new discovery renewed the locals' interest in the state's paleontology history. Number 18.
You should have got money.
Extinct clam. For years, a family of translucent clams has been thought to be extinct until November 2018. While searching for sea slugs in some tide pools at a beach near Santa Barbara, California, marine ecologist Jeff Goddard noticed a bizarre creature. In the shallow pools was a pair of tiny translucent clams not larger than 10 millimeters long. He did a double take when he realized he was looking at a clam species long thought to have gone extinct. To confirm his finding, Goddard took some photos and consulted with Paul Valentich Scott, a curator at the Santa Barbara Museum of Natural History, who was equally puzzled by these mysterious mollusks. To verify whether the mollusks belonged to an extinct species, Goddard returned to the location once again, but he wasn't immediately lucky. The clams were elusive, and it took Goddard 9 more visits to the beacon to finally collect a specimen to be examined. The breakthrough came when they compared it to a fossil specimen from the 1930s, confirming it was indeed the presumed extinct Cymatioa cooki. This clam was last identified from fossil records dating back 28,000 to 36,000 years ago from the Baldwin Hills area of Los Angeles. The question that baffles scientists is how this clam, now considered a living fossil, stayed hidden for so long. It's thought that marine heat waves between 2014 and 2016 may have shifted clam larvae northward to the spot where Goddard found them. Now imagine how many more species that we deemed extinct have actually been living without our knowledge all along. Number 17. $100,000 door stopper. Do you have a random rock lying around? Perhaps one that you're using as a door stopper? You might want to check that out after watching this. You see, recently, a family got the plot twist of a lifetime when they discovered that the 22-pound rock they've been using as a doorstop for the last 3 decades was actually a valuable object. This remarkable discovery occurred in Michigan, where a man inherited the meteorite unknowingly when he bought a farm. The previous farm owner casually mentioned that this hefty rock, which had been propping open a door since the 1930s, was a meteorite. It had even left a small crater when it fell to Earth and was still warm when it was first found. It wasn't until decades later that the new owner decided to get the rock analyzed after hearing that other people had made money by selling meteorites.
I wonder how or when did he start looking at it and being like, you know what? Start scratching the back of his head. You know, this kind of... And then when they acknowledge what it is, you think back to all the times that you pretty much probably kicked it, dropped it, scratched it up, drug it, did all kind of different things to it, just disrespecting it. And you was just like, well, I'll be golly.
It turned out this doorstop was composed of 88.5% iron and 11.5% nickel. That doesn't really mean anything to us everyday folks, but this composition made this space rock valuable. And by valuable, I mean it could potentially fetch a staggering $100,000. And now, this doorstop turned valuable meteorite is known as the Edmore meteorite. The anonymous man who brought it for analysis also agreed to give 10% of the final sale to Central Michigan University for their help. Number 16. Methuselah. The oldest living thing in California is neither human nor an animal. Instead, it's a tree named Methuselah. Nestled in the White Mountains, this Great Basin bristlecone pine has been standing for about 4,853 years.
Jeez.
That's right, it was already centuries old when the ancient Egyptians were building the pyramids. It's astounding to learn that there's a being even older than one of the greatest civilizations on the planet. The Methuselah tree grows in an extreme environment at the upper edge of the timberline, where conditions are harsh. And yet somehow, some way, it's thriving. Researchers aren't exactly sure how or why. Still, some believe that Methuselah's longevity lies in its ability to adapt and survive in freezing temperatures and poor soils, drawing nutrients from limestone and carbonate rock. Along with its durability are its gnarled branches that are seemingly perfectly shaped to withstand the relentless mountain winds. Now you're probably wondering, why haven't I heard about this tree before? Well, it's probably because while its age is celebrated by researchers, its exact location is being kept a secret. After all, making the location public might result in a destruction and possible death of the Methuselah. The rings of this tree provide researchers with information about our ever-changing climate. And while it might not be the oldest tree in the world, it still holds a lot of significance for the researchers and the state.
That's sad. We can't even go see the wonders of our world in fear somebody is just going to damage, destroy, and just remove history. You know what I mean? Like, that's sad that we have that reputation.
Number 15. Humongous fungus. Now let's head over to Michigan, where scientists recently discovered one of the largest organisms on Earth. No, it's not a marine creature nor a land mammal. Rather, it's a fungus. Yes, you heard that right. In Crystal Creek, Michigan is the impressive fungus Armillaria gallica. Originally spotted in the late 1980s, this shroom was once named the largest single organism in the world. That year, researchers believed that the fungus was around 110 tons and was about 1,500 years old. Recent studies, however, revealed that the fungus is larger, much larger. It turned out that this fungus covers about 90 acres of area. To put that in perspective, that's about 75 football fields all squished together under the forest floor. And guess what? This giant is estimated to weigh around 400,000 kilograms, or roughly 4 times the size of an average blue whale. It's also ancient. around 2,500 years old. This means it started growing around 500 BC, during the time of ancient Greece and before the rise of the Roman Empire. But what else do we know about this fungus? Well, we know that it's a type of honey mushroom, and it spreads primarily underground through its mycelium, which is kind of like the fungus's equivalent of roots. Above ground, it's far less conspicuous, only revealing itself when it fruits and produces mushrooms visible to the naked eye. However, it's a known parasite, which means it thrives by feeding off the trees in the forest, contributing to the forest's natural process of decomposition and renewal. Despite its potential destructiveness, it plays a crucial role in the ecosystem by breaking down wood and helping nutrients cycle back into the soil. Number 14. Croc Cousin. In 1989, archaeologists discovered a fossil, and earlier this year, scientists finally analyzed and made sense of the remains. If you think crocodiles today are horrifying, wait until you see its cousin, a literal tank that roamed our planet 215 million years ago. This new species, named Garzapelta muelleri, was identified thanks to its remains discovered in Texas.
I ain't gonna lie, that thing does look kind of creepy and scary a little bit like that, but I'm sorry. Maybe I'm being biased from my era of different dangerous animals, but the croc today looks a little bit more scarier than that one did. Let's be honest. Come on now.
Member of the Aetosaurs, a group of heavily armored reptiles that roamed the Earth before the rise of dinosaurs. These creatures were like the tanks of their time, equipped with thick bony plates and spikes, making them walking fortresses against predators. The unique configuration of these osteoderms, a scientific term for armor plates, indicates that the protective covering of these animals evolved independently in response to environmental pressures. And while Aetosaurs look more monstrous and intimidating than modern crocodiles, their diet is much more diverse. As hardy as they look, Aetosaurs are primarily omnivores, which means they don't feast on flesh alone, unlike their modern kin, who are strictly carnivores. This new analysis and discovery helps us learn more about the evolution of crocodiles that we see today. Number 13. Snake worm. If you live in Alaska or somewhere near the state, perhaps you've heard about the snake worm mystery. If you haven't, this bizarre incident revolves around quote-unquote snake worms, which are essentially long lines of worms clumped together, moving as one unit, resembling a snake. And yes, it looks as unsettling as it sounds. This peculiar phenomenon first puzzled Derek Sykes, an insect expert at the University of Alaska. In 2007, a local resident handed him a bag full of these mysterious larvae that, when grouped, mimicked the appearance of a snake. This creature had never been identified by science before, leading to a decade-long mystery.
This is very smart. Like, this is very, very highly intelligent. You know what I mean? Especially in a way to protect yourselves from predators and different things like that. Try to ward them off, make yourself look bigger or look like something else. This is very, very smart.
Recently, however, researchers finally unlocked the mystery behind these creatures. Through years of careful study and collaboration with international experts, it turns out these snake worms are actually a new species of gnat, now named Sciara serpens. These gnats are pretty unique because in the larval stage, they move in large columns over each other's backs, which makes them look like a snake. For what reason exactly? Well, we're not entirely sure just yet, but scientists believe that this behavior might protect them by mimicking a snake to scare off predators, or it could help keep their delicate bodies moist while crossing dry patches of land. Regardless of why they're doing it, one thing is for sure: this new species looks like something out of someone's nightmare. Number 12. 6,500-year-old cave art. North America is home to several cave art sites. However, this fact isn't well known. So today, we're looking at one of the caves in North America that tells a tale from over 6,500 years ago. Usually, caves in North America were once seen as sacred spaces where ancient peoples connected with the spiritual world. For this reason, most cave art, either carved into mud or stone, has a spiritual connection. The oldest sites of southeastern cave art date back to the Archaic period, between 10,000 and 1000 BC. These artworks are clustered along the modern Kentucky-Tennessee state line. These creations paint a picture of rich spirituality, from depictions of bird humans and other mythical creatures. In time, Archaeologists hope to learn more about the ancient settlers of the land through these mudglyphs and petroglyphs. Number 11. King Polar Bear. The polar bear is the largest land carnivore. These enormous and ferocious beings roam the Arctic, prowling the icy expanse in search of prey. And while they're already considered massive, with some standing up to a staggering 9 feet on hind legs and 5 feet at the shoulder with a weight up to an impressive 1,600 pounds, there are claims that a king polar bear actually exists, a bear larger than the ones we've observed so far. For so long, the existence of this bear has been dismissed as a myth. That is, until recently, when researchers discovered a skull that might prove the existence of this behemoth in the Arctic Circle in the past. This colossal skull was unearthed in remote Alaska, and it's one of the largest ever found, suggesting a bear of truly monumental size roamed Alaska centuries ago. The skull measures over 40 centimeters from nose to back and is equipped with some pretty formidable teeth. Its shape also differs from the skull of modern polar bears, with it being longer and narrower at the back, sparking debates among scientists about whether we might be dealing with a subspecies or an entirely different type of bear. The discovery ties into local Inuit legends that speak of king bears, large skinny bears that some suggest could be a different species or subspecies, long thought to be mere myths. Researchers plan to compare the DNA from this ancient skull to that of current polar bears to explore these possibilities further. We're still trying to figure out whether these king polar bears truly existed in the past, and the discovery of this skull gave us a head start. Number 10. A Soviet sailor's message. Tyler Ivanov, a teacher's aide in Alaska, never imagined in his life that he would stumble upon a precious and historical artifact while simply searching for firewood only about 20 miles west of his home. Living in Shishmaref, a tiny town on a tiny island in northwestern Alaska, Tyler was already familiar with anything and everything around him. The last thing he expected to discover was a 50-year-old letter preserved in an old wine bottle. Upon opening, he could hardly believe his eyes. Inside was a message from Anatoly Botsinenko, who was once a captain aboard the Soviet vessel Sulak. The message, dated June 20, 1969, carried heartfelt greetings and well wishes from the crew, tossed into the vast Pacific with hopes that someone, someday, might discover it. Now, this discovery was nothing short of miraculous.
Right.
The bottle had traveled possibly over 2,000 miles and survived the tumultuous ocean for half a century. The note inside was perfectly preserved, still dry, and even retained a hint of an old alcohol scent. When Ivanov posted about his find on social media, it immediately went viral. In fact, the post led to a heartwarming reunion via Russian media with the now 86-year-old Botsinenko, who was astonished and emotional to reconnect with his youthful adventure. Number 9. Porcelain Gallbladder. 1935 saw the closure of the Mississippi State Lunatic Asylum, and for decades, the cemetery was forgotten. In time, nature slowly reclaimed the area, and the gravestones of those interred on the property faded. For a long time, thousands of marked and unmarked graves were dismissed and forgotten. Eventually, the University of Mississippi Medical Center reclaimed part of the grounds. In 2012, a campus was erected, and the graves were rediscovered. This marked the beginning of burial excavations, and among the many odd things found in these graves was a porcelain gallbladder. Yes, you heard that right, but it's probably not what you think it is. Despite being called a porcelain gallbladder, this organ isn't made of porcelain. Instead, this term pertains to a rare medical condition. A porcelain gallbladder is a calcified gallbladder that has turned hard and brittle, much like porcelain. This occurs due to chronic inflammation, leading to a buildup of calcium in the muscular walls of the organ. Organs decompose after death, but this middle-aged woman's condition caused her gallbladder to be calcified. The asylum, operational from 1855 to 1935, was the final home for many patients. It's no wonder that tons of bizarre and never-before-seen discoveries would turn up in the excavation of these graves. Number 8. Dark Watchers. If you're into horror, creepypasta, folklore, and the occult, perhaps you're already familiar with the Dark Watchers. The Dark Watchers are said to inhabit the Santa Lucia Mountains. They're often described as tall figures draped in black cloaks. Witnesses frequently spot them at twilight or dawn, and for years, Their existence has been shrouded in mystery. Some think they might be spirits or guardians of the mountains, as per local Native American beliefs. Others, however, believe that rather than entities or beings, Dark Watchers are merely the result of optical illusions caused by specific atmospheric conditions, such as the Brocken specter phenomenon, where a person's shadow is cast enlarged and eerily on mist, creating ghostly figures. Despite numerous sightings, the true nature of the Dark Watchers remains a complete mystery. However, continuous reports and eyewitness accounts continue to keep the existence of these questionable entities alive. Number 7. General Sherman. If you look at this massive sequoia, it's hard to tell that it's something extraordinary. However, this organism is the largest known single-stem tree on Earth by volume. This sequoia isn't like any other. In fact, it has a name. General Sherman is a tree that stands a towering 275 feet tall, nearly as tall as the Statue of Liberty from base to torch. And its base? A massive 36 feet in diameter. Imagine, it's so wide that it would take a good number of people holding hands to circle it. But
they always talk about the size of it, but they never go in depth about how important this thing is to our ecosystem. And I say that because I watch a lot of videos and talk about the Amazon. And that's one thing we always talk about with the Amazon, how important it is to our planet. So these trees have to be, with their size and just, you know what I mean? They have to be just as important, you know? So that's one thing we're always so enamored with the size, we never go in depth, man. And I think that'll go a long way in helping to continue to preserve these trees and maybe others coming up behind it.
Living thing to reach this size, it has to be between 2,300 and 2,700 years old. Sequoia are trees that grow in the unique climate of California's Sierra Nevada mountains, where the conditions are just right for their kind to thrive. With its age, General Sherman easily contains California history, Civil War history, and more. The General Sherman tree is only an hour-and-a-half drive from Fresno. Seeing these trees in person is a humbling experience, and hopefully, these trees will continue to thrive and stand for decades to come. Number 6. America's Stonehenge. Did you know that America has its own Stonehenge in the United States? Right in the heart of the woods of Salem, New Hampshire, is a mysterious circle of stones. This site, once known as Mystery Hill, spans 30 acres and is now known as America's very own Stonehenge. This site features a complex of megaliths, stone chambers, and ceremonial sites that we haven't thoroughly studied. The most curious feature of this site, however, is a sacrificial table, which has grooves that some say were used to channel liquids during rituals, leading to some horrific lore and theories. Some, however, believe that rather than a sacrificial table, this stone is a lye leaching or cider press stone used by early colonial settlers. Whether it's a stone used for something inhumane or something completely mundane is still debated. You see, much about the Mystery Hill remains, well, a complete mystery. In fact, the very age of this curious site remains unknown, with some claiming that it could be 4,000 years old. The origin and creators of this site also remain a question. However, with its age, it could possibly have been built by Native Americans, or even ancient European migrants long before Columbus sailed to the Americas. Yet, definitive evidence remains elusive. Number 5. Ruins of Casa Grande. Nestled in the Sonoran Desert of Arizona are the ruins of Casa Grande. These ruins are centered around the Casa Grande, or Great House, a 4-story structure made from caliche, a type of natural concrete, believed to have been constructed in the early 13th century. This structure is an astounding example of pre-Columbian architecture and engineering, but despite being studied and examined since its discovery, its purpose remains a mystery. Could it be an astronomical observatory? Possibly. However, it could also have been a social gathering place for trade and communication. After all, the Casa Grande was part of a larger community that included multiple compounds. Why was it abandoned? To this day, that's a mystery as well. Number 4. Lake Winnipesaukee Mystery Stone. At first glance, this stone looks like something from an ancient legend. Perhaps that's why the Lake Winnipesaukee Mystery Stone immediately garnered the attention of experts. This small, egg-shaped object crafted from smooth quartzite was first discovered in Meredith, New Hampshire in 1872 by workers digging a hole for a fence post. This artifact has puzzled historians and archaeologists for decades. In fact, no one could figure out the purpose of this 4-inch long egg-shaped stone. Some experts believe this stone might be a Native American artifact, given the symbols carved into it, which could signify a treaty between tribes or mark a boundary. Meanwhile, others...
See, this is the type of stuff I'm hoping that artificial intelligence will be able to crack the code on. Because I'm looking at this, I see what looks to be a TP. I saw something that looked like corn on the cob, and you got a face on the front, circle on the bottom. You're like, I can't even begin to think where or what this could be, what this could mean, where it could come from. Is it from this planet? Is it them trying to tell us something? Leave this behind to, I don't know, as a warning? Like, this is the stuff I'm hoping AI is able to crack, these codes.
Speculate it could have Celtic or Inuit origins, as these cultures also created artifacts similar to stone eggs. However, this stone has a feature that deters many from believing its authenticity. You see, along with the figures and symbols etched on this rune are holes that are too smooth to have been created by ancient tools. This led many to believe that perhaps the stone might be a 19th or 20th century creation, or possibly just a hoax. The Lake Winnipesaukee Mystery Stone is now displayed at the New Hampshire Historical Society in Concord, and for now, the authenticity of this stone and whether it's ancient or not is still up for debate. Number 3. Blythe Intaglios. In 1932, George Palmer, a pilot flying between Las Vegas, Nevada and Blythe, California, noticed bizarre figures etched into the expanse of the desert. This led to the rediscovery of what is now known as the Blythe geoglyphs of the Blythe Intaglios, and ever since, these geoglyphs have intrigued historians. Today, they're protected as State Historic Monument number 101, with fences erected to prevent further damage, although they're still accessible to the public. And yet, despite being examined by experts, we're still unsure what they represent. Patterns and circles at the site allude to the fact that local groups have used this location to dance, perhaps to revere and pay their respects to spirits, nature, or gods they worship. However, some believe that these patterns are created to represent important figures in local lore. Some believe that one of the humanoid geoglyphs represents Mastamo and Qatar, known as the hero twins of the creation myth in local lore. Regardless, the Blythe geoglyphs remain among the most astounding yet lesser-known archaeological finds in the United States. Number 2. Kensington Runestone. Nestled in the small town of Kensington, Minnesota, is the Kensington Runestone. Initially discovered by Swedish immigrant Olof Uman in 1898, this stone has perplexed archaeologists since it was found. This enigmatic stone is covered with runic inscriptions purportedly dating back to 1362, and is said to be describing the journey and hardships faced by Norse explorers in North America. You see, the question about this stone isn't the where, what, how, and why, but rather if. You see, we don't know if the stone is genuine or not. If it isn't, there'd be no point in deciphering the runes carved into its surface. Some linguists claim that the runes on the Kensington Runestone are too modern to be from the 14th century. In fact, comparisons with known Scandinavian text from the 19th century suggest that the stone might have been created as a hoax during that time, possibly by someone familiar with these texts, which makes this stone's authenticity all the more suspicious since a Swedish immigrant was the one who found it. Despite doubts and questions surrounding the Kensington Runestone, it's been prominently displayed at various venues, including the Smithsonian and the World's Fair. Today, the runestone is housed at the Runestone Museum in Alexandria, Minnesota, where it continues to attract visitors from all around the globe. And now, it's time for today's topic. Archaeologists unearthed an Ice Age settlement that may rewrite North American history. In a remote corner of North America, archaeologists have uncovered an Ice Age settlement buried beneath centuries of earth. There are claims that this settlement just might change what we know about the earliest inhabitants of the continent. This groundbreaking find suggests that the story of who first set foot on these lands is far older and more complex than previously believed. Could it be that there are distinct hunter-gatherers that were far advanced for their time? Or perhaps out-of-place artifacts are leading us to wrong theories once again? Until more information about this new finding gets released, we can only speculate. Number 1. Bighorn Medicine Wheel. If you've passed through the Bighorn Mountains of Wyoming, Perhaps you've already noticed a massive ancient structure composed of several stones. This is the Bighorn Medicine Wheel, composed of stones with about 28 spokes, lying at an elevation of 10,000 feet. This old ruin is an ancient structure believed to have been made between 300 and 800 years ago.
I'm just waiting to hear burial ground because that's where my mind instantly went.
Throughout the decades, this structure has been maintained and revered by various Native American groups. Now, what makes this structure astounding isn't only its size. The wheel points to the places on the horizon where significant stars rise and reveal themselves. Most of these stars are crucial for determining the timing of ceremonial days, particularly around the summer solstice when the area is free of snow and accessible. Researchers recently discovered that the wheel's layout with its 28 spokes isn't arbitrary. It mirrors the number of days in the lunar cycle, a number sacred to several Indian tribes. To this day, researchers believe that the Bighorn Medicine Wheel has secrets yet to be revealed. The U.S. truly has a rich history.